Hi everyone, my name is Ina and I'm super excited to be here today. I'm going to talk about the importance and benefits of creator royalties and why we should actually make them mandatory. As most of you know, royalties have been a super controversial topic over the last few years. With the decline in market activity, the NFT ecosystem has seen a race to the bottom. And basically, marketplaces tried to cut costs, and one way of doing that was by actually making royalties mandatory, by actually discarding artist royalties or making them optional. I personally believe that this move has been really short-sighted because it's actually harming the industry and the ecosystem, and it's also against the Web3 ethos. Before I'm going to dive into the benefits royalties bring to the community, to artists, and to also collectors, I think it makes sense to take a step back and look at what has been happening with royalties in the traditional art world and how Web3 was actually able to address a lot of the pain points and problems the traditional art world was facing. Okay, so what's been happening in the traditional art market historically is that when artwork gets sold on the secondary market, pretty much everyone benefits from that sale, but artists themselves. What happens is the piece gets sold, the buyer receives the piece, the seller gets paid, and then usually there are also intermediaries involved, such as auction houses, brokers, or galleries, and they also take a significant cut of that sale. Artists themselves usually don't receive royalties on secondary sales in the traditional art world, which is surprising considering if we look at other industries, creative industries such as the music industry or publishing, royalties have been the norm for many, many years. Just to give you an example, the Beatles actually broke up in the 1970s, but nevertheless, they are still receiving royalties up until this date. In the traditional art world, one of the reasons why royalties were difficult was because of a lack of transparency. It was really difficult to prove provenance and authenticity. However, with Web3 and the emergence of new technology, including NFTs, blockchain, and smart contract, the industry was suddenly able to actually address the pain points the traditional art market was experiencing. Suddenly, with blockchain, we had immutable records, which meant that we could prove authenticity and provenance. So suddenly, we had full transparency. We could see when an artwork was minted and when it was sold. Similarly, with smart contract technology, we were suddenly able to automate and execute royalty payments. So artists could decide the percentage of royalties they wanted to receive, and based on that, when they made a secondary sales, those royalties would be executed in perpetuity. So with the emergence of new technology, we've really seen a new paradigm, and NFTs completely changed the way art was created, sold, and bought. It really disrupted the art world because suddenly we were able to honor artist royalties, which was previously not possible in the traditional art world. Creator royalties have been a fundamental aspect and principle of the Web3 ecosystem right from the start. But nevertheless, some marketplaces actually decided to make royalties optional or remove them altogether. This was partly because they wanted to increase sales volumes and liquidity, and one way of doing that was by actually cutting costs. As I mentioned in the intro, I personally believe that this was very short-sighted and a really big mistake for the overall market because royalties bring a lot of benefits to the community and to creators. But let's look at this one by one. So in terms of the creator, royalties offer fair compensation on both primary and secondary sales. In theory, this should be in perpetuity. Also, they really ensure that creators receive an equitable share of the value increase of their works. What I mean by that is that as an artist starts out with their career, sometimes they actually sell artworks for less. As their career goes on, they become more famous and more sought after. Their artwork prices actually increase. And with that increase in price, there's also a value increase. And artists are actually able to get an equitable share of that value increase through royalties. Also, royalties really ensure artists' sustainability and livelihood and career. And this might be a bit more of like a philosophical point, but I think royalties also show to artists that we actually show respect for creativity and the time and effort it takes to create art. Royalties don't only benefit creators, but also the ecosystem overall and collectors, because we are actually incentivizing new works being created. Also, they really encourage innovation and creativity. Since creators have financial stability, they can really take risks and explore their creative freedom and innovate. They can try out new technology, new materials, new tools, and see where their creative freedom takes them. Royalties also really encourage a quality over quantity mindset, because artists are actually, they don't have that financial pressure to churn out piece after piece just to get a primary sales. They can really take a step back and focus on quality rather than mass productions. Royalties also enhance artist and collector relationships because they foster an ongoing engagement and encourage long-term thinking. And last but not least, they also really have a big impact on the overall market dynamics. So from a macro point of view, they really affect market health. Through royalties, we can expect continuous engagement from artists, really ensuring a vibrant and dynamic market. Just to give you an example, what we've seen during the bear market is that a lot of artists actually stopped minting pieces, or they minted a lot less. And some reasons for that were that actually they didn't want to dilute the market, and also they didn't want to lower their floor prices. Obviously, all of these reasons are completely valid, and I think we can all empathize with them. However, what it meant for the market overall is that there was a lot less activity and a lot less engagement. And this is basically where we come to the chicken and egg situation. Also, royalties, I believe, really foster investor confidence, because buyers are actually assured that the artwork is going to have an ongoing value and support. And then, last but not least, I think royalties also really impact market speculation, and they can really mitigate that. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against speculation. I think speculation is absolutely normal in any market where there are high profits. However, I believe in order to have a sustainable ecosystem, we need to have a balance between speculation and long-term thinking. And this is where actually royalties come in, because they really warrant that we counteract short-term thinking and profit-taking. As you've been able to tell by now, I'm a huge believer and advocate of creator royalties, because they are really a fundamental aspect of a healthy, equitable, and sustainable Web3 ecosystem. And they also really ensure that artists are fairly compensated on both the primary and secondary market, and they really also encourage long-term thinking and continuous market engagement. And because of all of these reasons, I really believe that royalties should be mandatory across all marketplaces. But now the question is, how can we actually fix this? How can we make sure that we as a community make royalties mandatory again? And I think there are different solutions of how we might be able to do this. I've listed a few here, however, there are a lot more. But just to kick off the conversation and to give you some food for thought, I think first of all, we can really make a change to technology in order to enforce royalties. We can implement a ERC 6651 token standard, which basically means that artists can directly code the percentage they want to receive in royalties into the smart contract itself. And this basically really facilitates the tracking of royalties and also the collection of royalties. Secondly, as a community, we can come together and really lobby for royalties. We could do this by making sure the biggest IP holders, collectors, and creators actually pull on the same string. And we really make sure royalties are being reinforced, and we boycott marketplaces that don't actually execute royalties. This really, right now, some IP holders have already started doing this. However, I think we need a lot more engagement from the community in order to really execute well on this. And then last but not least, an alternative option would be if we look at marketplaces where there's a lot of flipping and trading. If they don't want to pay marketplace fees or royalties, they could be charged a subscription fee. So if you're a trader and you have high volumes, you can be charged a subscription fee based on that. So there are different solutions to actually address the problem. But I really do believe royalties should be made mandatory in order to really build an equitable system, and let's do this together. I'm getting shushed off the stage because I think I reached my time. So thanks so much for listening. If you have any questions, just grab me on the way out.